This is it right here.
Combining a team of reporters, columnists, and commentators.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Are you serious?
Jack Ebling has brought thought-provoking discussion.
What are you doing?
That's a damn coaching mistake!
Opinion.
The customer is the one who decides when the future gets here.
Oh, no!
The ship is on fire!
You have to check the report.
Are you kidding me?
That game was fixed.
And overall infotainment.
I'll take Jim Harbaugh.
What has he done?
Crazy cootie coming at you.
Quiet, please. In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Thanks, big fella.
Don't you ever come back here again.
No arguments. Those are called ass tunes.
So buckle up.
You talking to me?
It's time for The Drive with Jack Ebling.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Great afternoon, Mid-Michigan and beyond, and welcome to The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer, Boston Rob, in studio today, 105 West Allegan here, just one block southeast of the state capitol. Big show planned for you. Lots of Big Ten basketball to talk about. We have an in-studio guest to talk about pulling the goaltender, Rob, and done some great research on this. And we have some other segments here you're going to want to hear about college baseball, college football, and the Olympics. But we want to go out to our guest line and welcome in Stephen Brooks, 24/7 Sports Spartan Tailgate Premium Site. Normally we have Stephen with us on Wednesday afternoon, but that changed a little bit this week. Tom Izzo have a different practice regimen and player availability with the Friday night game, right?
That's it. Yeah, conflicted a little bit with normal deals. So
yeah.
Appreciate you bumping around and having me on.
Flipped you around with Tony Garcia, who had a game yesterday but was driving to Evanston, and said he was a little surprised with the 16-point spread. He thought it would be more than that. Turns out Michigan was down 16 points early in the second half and then shifted gears. And I don't know what it is, Stephen, but we have seen so many times, with Northwestern building a big lead and cannot hold it. And it doesn't matter what the sport is, who the coach is. We saw it in 2006, and they had a first-year coach named Fitzgerald. They led Michigan State 38-3, and John L. Smith's team came back, scored 38 straight points, field goal with 13 seconds to go, and won 41-38. And not long ago, Northwestern had a 27-point first-half lead on Michigan State. 27 points in a basketball game ahead of the Spartans, who were favored and had a very good team. And then Cassius Winston said, nah, we're not going to have this, and brought Michigan State all the way back to win. So last night, the 16-point deficit to overcome didn't seem that much, but Michigan did what it had to do, even though it played a relatively pedestrian game.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of Northwestern's lot in this league now, and even before now. So, thanks to be them. But when they do rise up and do something like make an NCAA tournament or go to the Big Ten championship in football, that's why it's notable. That's why we give them a lot of credit when it does happen, because they are kind of who they are, to put it respectfully, I guess, mildly. So, just this specific team, they don't have the depth. They have Martinelli's a first-team All-Big Ten talent, and then it's a bunch of guys. So you run into a thing where it is hard to close games when you're built like that. And then Michigan's built the opposite way. They got studs going through the 8th and 9th player. Right. And they can just kind of roll you like that. And, I thought it was a classic deal of, you're Northwestern, we're going to overlook you, and Michigan's been rolling. Like, there's going to be a couple games like that. That's where, when you talk about Michigan, like, when they're dialed in, we don't see them slip. But when it's Penn State on the road, a little sleepy, or Wisconsin's coming in here, who cares? Right. When they're unfocused, that's when you can maybe get them a little bit. But if they're looking forward to it, like a Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, something like that, they haven't played all those teams yet, of course. But I think that's a tougher spot to be in when they really have red in their eyes.
Stephen, do you think Michigan will win at Purdue, at Mackey Arena, and at Illinois at State Farm Center?
I don't think both probably at this point, but I would bet one of them.
Okay. More likely to be 2-0 or 0-2? if you said they weren't going to split?
Man, I guess more likely 0-2.
Yeah.
I mean, things can get weird near the end here, and those, you're talking about two legit.
Yeah.
It's at Illinois too, right? You said so two legit road environments, two of the 5 best probably we'll call it in the league. And speaking of home and road environments, I did think it was funny last night that sounded like a more lively Michigan home game than a Michigan home game. I don't know if you caught that. That was interesting that they have to go on the road to get a boost from a crowd. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, I do think they're the best team though, but those are just 2 tough environments. Those are 2 teams that are going to be playing for something, and it might be that win over Michigan that day that gets them into first place, that type of situation. So it's going to be very entertaining and everything, but I do think Michigan's the best team in the league, pound for pound and across the board.
We went through some history yesterday of NCAA champions and what happened to them late in the regular season, and whether it's Marquette with Al McGuire in 1977 or Michigan State in 1979, or Michigan in 1989, and there are many others who lost their last regular season game. And it was like that was a reset. And I think I know who's last on Michigan's regular season schedule, but it'll be interesting to see if they already have the championship locked up. There was a time not long ago when it didn't look like Michigan State was going to make the NCAA tournament. It seemed like the streak was going to end. And then the Spartans beat Michigan and Ohio State and Illinois, I believe, and needed to win every one of those games just to make it into the tournament. So that will be interesting. Did you watch the Michigan-Northwestern game last night, Stephen?
Last 15 minutes or so. I was out catching an NIA game, supporting a friend up at LCC, and then got home, saw the score. I was like, whoa, and flipped it on. So, yeah, like last 15 to 12 minutes or so, right around there is when I finally got it on.
Yeah. There was a foul, and you've probably seen the replay of it, with Adai Mara going at Nick Martinelli and came down with a double chop and caught him in the face and didn't come anywhere near the ball. He had kind of turned his head away, so he wasn't really looking at where he was swinging, but he was swinging wildly. But then on the way down, he grabbed Martinelli's leg, and Chris Collins was as mad as I've ever seen him. But there were a lot of other people who were upset. It's the old, people who live in glass houses analogy, and they were very upset at that play. But I think you're going to find a lot of these. Tom Izzo certainly can identify them for you in games. So, nobody is immune from that kind of criticism, and Michigan got their share last night. In terms of Wisconsin, Michigan State's next opponent, Friday night at Kohl Center. Badgers have wins in Ann Arbor and in Champaign. How difficult a proposition is that? Michigan's only lost one game, and beating Illinois there, I guess Nebraska did it too. But getting both of those wins says what about UW?
I think it says that they're capable. I'm not ready to move them into like the dangerous pile.
Yeah.
When you look at their season body of work, like to me, dangerous is like every night, like on your toe, and like you do have to be, but they are capable.
Right.
Dangerous would be the next tier up. I'll put them in capable because they clearly are. I mean, at Illinois and at Michigan are 2 of the best wins anybody has in the country this year, quite honestly. So, but then you look at their body of work and you go, they are still 9-4. I mean, they've had some weird results at times. So, on a given night, especially on their home floor, which is always a tough time. They are capable. They are tricky. I don't put them, like I said, into maybe they're getting to dangerous now, late in the season. Like I said, that's the next tier up when you go out to Illinois. But I think on any given night, they are capable. And if you can beat Michigan here, there, the moon, the sun, it really doesn't matter. If you can do that under any circumstances, you have something to you. But they haven't shown us the consistency or just sort of that steadiness that puts them in that top tier. Like, MSU's in the second tier of the Big Ten, Wisconsin's down there in the third, maybe something like that. So, but they are capable. Anyway, to get back to my main point, they got some good players, and you face them on their home court. That's never going to be easy. MSU is coming off, I don't think enough people are realizing this, it's a 5-day break for MSU.
Yeah.
And I ended up asking Izzo about it, not the reason I bring it up, but I do think it's interesting. This time of year, it's a good time to pause, kind of, but like he said, like I kind of expected he would say, it's going to depend on the result. If they win, it was the best break ever, and it was the great timing. If they lose, they should have got back out there, and they lost their momentum from Illinois. So I just think that's I think that's going to play into this game, though. When you look at MSU still navigating the Divine Ugochukwu miss, you got Wisconsin coming back home feeling good about themselves. Another primetime game. I think that's something that I think that difference in prep and stretch. Because we've seen MSU come out of these bigger breaks and not look the best all the time throughout the years. So that's something I'm looking at, keeping an eye on too.
I think you'd still much rather have it than not have it. You'd rather be in Michigan State's position than Wisconsin's. And I can guarantee you this, Stephen, from past experience. If Michigan State was in Wisconsin's position, returning after a late game on Tuesday and then having to play Michigan State on Friday, and the Badgers having nearly a week off, Tom Izzo wouldn't like it. And he'd be vocal about it. So, you can always find something that it might not work. And you're right. And he's right. If it doesn't work, then people will find another explanation for it. Do you think that Nick Boyd and John Blackwell are the best backcourt in the Big Ten?
Let me see here. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know who else. Nobody else has the two like that. Nobody else has the duo. Everybody else has one guy that can kind of carry the banner. But I'm not seeing a lot of duos like that as I look through here and just try to run through my mind. No, I think they probably do then.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that Nick Boyd, who actually played for Dusty May down at FAU, has really developed as a player, much better player than he was there. And John Blackwell, it's funny because Michigan State didn't pay him much attention when he was in high school, Birmingham Brother Rice. And people who saw him, even Izzo, liked him, but for some reason he didn't follow up on it. Maybe he had somebody else he liked better. But now he loves John Blackwell. And Dusty May loves him enough that he tried to poach him from Wisconsin, I understand. So Michigan's tour of the Big Ten, we know about Braden Smith, but can you imagine a Braden Smith, John Blackwell backcourt in Ann Arbor?
Oh my gosh, that would be that'd be dangerous. I mean, they're already like I said, I think they're definitely the best team in the league to me. They would be head and shoulders the best team in the country probably at that point. Because that's still whether or not Cadeau's had a nice year. I was not sold on him coming in. He's had a better year than I thought.
Right, he's been a pleasant surprise.
Getting better.
McKinney's been great.
Had a better freshman season than I anticipated.
Yeah,
I thought he was a little overrated coming out of high school by our rankings and others, but he's been a nice piece for him. So, no, I agree. They have both pieces. It's been interesting too how Wisconsin, it's like a Miami quarterback situation where they just farm out one position to the portal every year now. You got Kanji in as an assassin.
Right.
You got AJ Storr in there as an assassin for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you got Boyd in there as your guy. It's like they're not a portal team necessarily. You're still going to remember some of these guys, but it's like Miami's quarterback, where they're just going to figure out that one position to get it right every year through the portal. I think it's just been kind of interesting, and that's what they need to do. I mean, because you don't have that dynamic scoring guard in their system. They have enough deficiencies elsewhere that they don't have a lot going for them. So I just think that's been interesting to watch. Sort of a different. It's not all in portal like Michigan. It's not all the other end like Michigan State. Well, I don't want to say all out, but you guys all know what I mean. But it's like one spot a year. It's just going to sort of inorganically be reproducing outside of sort of the incubator. I just think that's been interesting to watch.
I was telling a couple of my friends over at Graph of Okemos earlier today that Wisconsin has done a 180, certainly a metamorphosis of the way they play basketball. We used to think of Wisconsin as the most fundamentally sound. They weren't a lot of fun to watch, but They didn't make any mistakes. They got everything out of every player they could, the Bo Ryan days, and even well into the Greg Gard era. That is not what Wisconsin basketball is now. You look at the point totals they have had. They scored 96 points against Marquette. I'm looking at some of these other totals here in conference play. They're in the 80s, way more than I ever thought they would. They scored, they had a big game against UCLA. Hey, they scored 91 against Michigan. Scored 96 against Rutgers, 98 against Penn State. And then you look at the Illinois game, and that was 92-90. Now, that was overtime. But nonetheless, they are scoring. And, you used to hear about the inverted offense where their posts would play on the perimeter and the guards would play in the post. But they are shooting so many threes, Stephen. I didn't think a team could shoot more than Illinois with all those 7-footers shooting from beyond the arc. In the game Tuesday night, Wisconsin took more threes than the Illini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are similar in that way, and that's something Izzo came out right away talking about yesterday. I guess it was when we talked to him. Like, yeah, that's a big concern of his, and that is, it is. You're not used to seeing that. I think they call it the motion W with 90s next to it on the scoreboard.
Yeah,
it's almost it's like they kind of successfully evolved into the modern era where football tried to do that and just imploded. Like Hindenburg style, just like fire everywhere, eruption, like just, people screaming and running. Like it was a disaster on the football side, which I've said many times they shouldn't have even tried to do.
Right.
But they've kind of gradually done it in hoops. It wasn't just overnight.
That's right.
Here we are. This is what we do now. It was very gradual, and I think it does have to do with what I just mentioned a little bit, where they've been bringing in some of these scoring guards and changing. Those guys have kind of forced the mold a little bit to each of those teams with what they could bring and how much productivity they were getting out of the perimeter at those spots. So you're right, though. It has been interesting to watch. This is not the Wisconsin you think of from 20 years ago.
And there's a difference between having a good three-point shooter and being a three-point shooting team. And that usually does not equate to the guards. It's the bigs who can step out. And that's how they beat Michigan when they hit those 7 straight threes. But, they get 7-footers out there, and they brought Adai Mara way out of his comfort zone. And, Michigan says, well, maybe we need to go small. Maybe we need Will Cheddar in the game. Well, that's fine, but you give up something, and Michigan isn't Michigan when they make that change. So I think there's some strategy here, and I think Greg Gard is an underrated coach. I'm not going to say he's one of the 2 or 3 best in the Big Ten. Certain years he may bump up against that. But I think a lot of people, fans would be hard-pressed to identify the Wisconsin coach, unless they're really into college basketball. And his record is pretty good and pretty consistent. He hadn't had any down seasons.
I agree with that. He does not get enough credit in the league, and it was kind of surprising because he's not just the guy who replaced Bo anymore.
Right,
like he was for the first 3, 4, or 5 years. Like he's kind of, to me, he stands on his own these days because of a little bit of the evolution that you just mentioned, but it's the consistency too. And I hate to keep making the comparison, but like that was the football program. That was Wisconsin football. You knew stylistically what you were going to get.
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be a tough game. You knew they were going to win 8 games minimum, and punch up to 10, 11 some years. But that's what they were, and that's what this basketball team is, though. He's not getting enough credit. I don't know. I would have to double-check this, but I'd be stunned if he's ever signed a top 50 player in the high school recruiting level. He might have barely signed a top 75 player. The guys that go into Wisconsin are usually like that 75 to 125 nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And like MSU's sweet spot really has been like 75 to 25 mostly, right around there. So like several tax brackets away from each other. But with Wisconsin continue, every year they're going to give you a run for their money. I don't think it was last year or 2 years ago. They weren't supposed to be that good. They were right there at the end again. It must have been 2 years ago because MSU ran away with it. But I think it was 2 years ago. But I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's done a really good job. I do agree. I do think he's underrated within the scope of the league, and that'd actually be really interesting to look at some of the recruiting rankings of some of these guys, because when I see them committing, I'm always, it's never a guy that I know because he's on MSU's radar or the fringe of MSU's radar. When I see Wisconsin get a commitment, I never know who the kid is. He's from such and such Minnesota, such and such Wisconsin,
such
and such out of Chicagoland. Like, they kind of hit their same spots, and they develop these dudes. They're good players. They're sturdy, all that. But he's a consistent force. Like I said, if you're not even getting, I'd really love to know if he's got a top 75 guy, in the last 5 years, if ever. Because maybe Blackwell's around there, maybe. But just the talent that he's bringing in versus the winning output is very impressive.
Yeah, and Blackwell, as we said, he was right there for the taking, and Michigan schools didn't jump on that. I did say to someone yesterday, what do you know about Greg Gard? And the guy said, "Oh, he was the guy that Juwan Howard hit." I said, "No, that was his assistant. That was Joe Krabenhoff." But people remember that more than they remember any of the good things that happened with Wisconsin basketball. And you can go back to 2015. Now, this was a little bit different, and the Bo Ryan vestiges, but that was a team that played Duke for the national championship. It's funny, Stephen, in 2005, Big Ten had two teams in, Michigan State and Illinois, and they both lost to North Carolina. And 10 years later, Michigan State and Wisconsin, and they both lost to Duke. So the fact that Michigan State is the last Big Ten team to win the title 26 years ago, there have been a lot of chances. Michigan had a couple. Purdue, Zach Edey was in the championship game. Ohio State, Indiana was in the championship game. I mean, the Big Ten has had many chances to do this. Do you think this is the year it changes, whether it's Michigan or someone else?
It really feels like the best chance since. What was the year? Maybe it was right around or before the pandemic, I want to say. And Kofi Coburn and Hunter Dickinson. It was the year of the bigs in the Big Ten. They had all these top 10 teams. I think it was Tillman's senior year last year, junior year.
20,
And then the Big Ten had like a historical flop. I think only Maryland maybe made it out of the first weekend or something like that. They had the best seeding that they've had. I'm trying to get the details right, but there was a couple years ago where everybody thought, the Big Ten is loaded up. And it turns out they just beat each other up, and nobody actually made it far at all in the tournament. This year feels different because of the rest of the country, I think. I mean, we said all year, Michigan has been riding right at the top, where they're maybe if they're not the best in the country, they're the top 2 or 3 in the country. I mean, you're not seeing teams that you feel like are in their class, really. So they legitimately feel like a heavyweight. Illinois is definitely capable. Michigan State in the right matchups could get to a Final Four, I think. Could even, it would take a lot of luck, I think, opponent-wise, to win a national title, which it always kind of does. But not ruling them out, Purdue, of course, as well. So, yeah, I do think so. But mostly it's Michigan carrying it because, Michigan could literally just be the best team in the country.
Yeah.
And they feel matchup, they're built in a way where it's hard to see what type of, they can morph around and adapt to different matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dusty's obviously a proven coach, has done it in that setting before. They're just steamrolling people, when they really turn it on and get focused and whatnot. So I think it's very possible. Just to wrap up the other point, I pulled it up real quick as we're talking. John Blackwell on the composite rankings, which factor in multiple websites, 209th in his class.
Whoa.
Nolan Winter, who folks will see tomorrow, 153. He's been a pretty solid, good player for him, So not even close to top 75, like I was saying. I can scan around a little bit, but So 2 outside of the top 100 in the next class, and all outside of the top. Yeah, so he might not even have been close to a top 75 player.
Jeez.
He's not even getting into the top 100. So good stuff that Greg Gard's got going on.
Well, we talk about Michigan and Michigan State, and for a long time, the prevailing wisdom was that they both couldn't be good at the same time. Last year, they were both very good. Michigan State won 30 games. Michigan won 27. And those 3 games, the difference was in conference play. But they both wound up losing to the same team at the same site. And Michigan loses to Auburn just before Michigan State does, right? You wind up with Both the teams losing the same one. And the same thing happened, Stephen, back in 2019. Michigan and Michigan State were both very good that year. And they met 3 times. Michigan was favored in every game. Michigan State won every game. And then they go to the NCAA tournament, and they both wind up playing Texas Tech. And Red Raiders put a stomping on Michigan. That's one of the worst losses I've seen from a Big Ten team in the NCAA tournament. Just got eviscerated. And then Michigan State, thought that it would go into the Final Four and thought that was a great opportunity and got beat by Texas Tech in the semifinal. So these teams, their paths in the NCAA tournament, interesting, and I think they're going to be together in Buffalo in the first and second rounds.
I could see that. Would that mean, does that mean MSU has to be a 2 to make that happen, or could they get there?
No, they could be
as a 3
anywhere.
or 4?
They could be anywhere because they wouldn't go to the same region. When because you are one place for the first and second rounds has nothing to do with what region you're in. So
sure.
They have these pods, and you have a pod from the West and a pod from the East, and they play the first and second rounds in the Midwest. It's crazy the way that happens. But I've seen a lot of speculation that Michigan will be Buffalo to Chicago, and Michigan State will be Buffalo to maybe San Jose.
Yep, I've seen that too. I used to know a lot more about how that worked, and that they changed it a certain number of years ago. Because it used to be the top 2 or whatever seeds.
Yeah.
Got they were the closest or whatever, but you couldn't overlap with certain other things, and there's always these. Anyway, that's boring stuff. Yeah, that'd be really sweet to have them both out there. Of course, it'd be cool to see them in a high stakes NCAA tournament game sometime. When you talk about that, it's funny you bring up that Texas Tech team, and even that run from Michigan State. So Duke that year felt like if how they play 100 times, how many is Michigan State going to get? Well, they got the one they needed. That's all that mattered. And then they got to that Final Four, and we still all say, man, that was a really winnable Final Four. Mm-hmm. That's got to be the case that plays out again, I think, for MSU if they were to really be in the mix for a national title. To me, just their raw components don't scream national title, but if you get to if Michigan gets knocked off, someone's going to have to help you out. If Arizona, UConn, something like that. Or you do just have that perfect day against a team like that, and I do think they are capable of that. The odds, I think, are low, but I do think they're capable of having that magical day like they did against Duke, against a Michigan. And then who knows? And then, you get them out of the picture, and now you're playing, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds in the Final Four. Who knows what you might have? So that would have to be, it'd have to be something kind of like that, I think. And of course, you'd have to play better in the actual Final Four game than they did against Texas Tech, where they got really suffocated there.
Right.
But a similar scenario like that, I think, is how this team would have to do something like that.
I'm looking back at the preseason projections, and Michigan State was picked to finish 6th in the Big Ten, and that still could happen, depending on some games here. Michigan State has to take care of business against UCLA next week, would have to win at Indiana. So there are some pitfalls besides the Purdue and Michigan games. But I'm looking at the matchup and how far Michigan State is from the best in the league. And I think Tom Izzo would tell you that Michigan is better right now. Doesn't mean they're going to win. Doesn't mean that they're going to win the last game of the year in Ann Arbor. But it means that looking at the players and what they have, the body of work and everything else would point Michigan's way. But in the matchups, and it's always all about the matchups, you can look at what happened in the first 19 minutes and 59 seconds, or you can look at what happened in the next 13 minutes when Michigan State outscored Michigan by 20 points. Or you can just look at the end of the game where Michigan reasserted itself and Michigan State got worn down and the lack of outside shooting finally killed Michigan State. Would you say that it's pretty clear that you'd rather have Jeremy Fears than Elliot Cadeau?
To me, yes. I've also seen a lot more Jeremy Fears, but I really think rationally, objectively, I think he's the answer. I mean, look at him nationally, where he's at, assists and everything. And yeah, I think you do.
All right. The front line positions, you have Yaxel Lendeborg or Cohen Carr, and it is not strictly a dunking contest. Is it advantage Yaks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, way more versatile, complete player for me. Can do a lot more things for you.
I agree.
I like Cohen, but definitely, Yaks was the dude who, he's the guy that steps into every court, and you're like, okay, what's our plan here?
What about at the 4 position? Morris Johnson Jr. has been tremendous for Michigan, I think. Certainly Illinois said that's not the player we had. And Jackson Kohler has been up and down and then back up. Let's say you get the good Jacks, the guy who is hitting 40+% from deep, and he just had a 16 rebound game, double what any Illinois player did. Let's say you get the good Jacks. Who do you want, Morez or Kohler?
Well, I think that the best version of Kohler, I think, has been more productive.
Yeah.
But I really like Morez.
Yeah.
I have since Illinois. I just personally, it's just the ruggedness, the style. I think he'd be great in a Michigan State uniform.
Yeah, he would.
Tom Izzo's evil twin would have loved to tamper and get that guy, because he's such a Michigan State player.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, I'm sure Izzo thinks about that too. Like, if I was just gonna put on the black hat, I think that'd be the first guy he would call, quite honestly. So that one's kind of a toss-up because it's personal for me, but I admit I think Kohler is more productive. So take that, if it's building a team for fun for me to watch, I'm going Morez. If it's who's the better player, who's more accomplished on paper, it would be Kohler. So
okay. Well, can we call that a push? We'll call that
sure.
even?
Yeah,
okay. So it's 1-1-1. That takes us to the center position. And we know how intimidating Aymara can be and how impossible it is sometimes when he is doing things he wants to do. And that doesn't include shooting free throws, where he's below 50%. But let's say you have the good Carson Cooper. Would you rather have Coop with his experience or Mara?
I'd rather have Mara. And these aren't winners and losers or pass fail. Coop's still a good player. It's just he's a nose that, maybe more than a nose, but I don't think these are decisive picks. But I would go Mara. I mean, you can't teach 7'2". Obviously, he's physical. Yeah. He can score in a variety of ways.
I think
and then
he's bigger than that, too. I think he's actually 7'3".
So he moves well. And defensively, all the things that he can impact, and
the rim
Coop's
protection.
very versatile defensively. Yeah. So different type of defensive emphasis. I mean, I can send Coop out to the line and guard a guard on a switch on a pick and roll and everything. I don't want Mara doing that.
Yeah.
But the impact of Mara at the highest end, where he's just a non-negotiable in certain ways. He's definitely more consistent. But I don't mean it to be as these are home run picks in really any of those cases, I guess. Mm-hmm. But so Coop's right there. Coop's still a good player, but if I have to pick one, I'm picking Mara.
Stephen, I think it depends on who you're playing and what game it is, because most of the time you want that rim protection. So Mara has a big advantage. But let's say you're playing Wisconsin, where the bigs are out beyond the three-point arc, or you're playing Illinois, where they have 7'3" guys too. Then maybe it switches a little bit. Anyway, I get you. Slight edge for Michigan there. The one I'm really curious about, and I'm convinced now, I wasn't for a long time, that Michigan's best two-guard is Trey McKinney. Amari Burnett had a 31-point game recently. I get it, but he's wildly inconsistent. Same with Roddy Gale. But Trey McKinney has shown me more than I thought I would see, having watched him in high school. So who do you want?
Yes.
Trey McKinney or Jordan Scott?
Oh, man. That's tough. I don't feel like I can honestly answer that well. I've seen so much more of Jordan Scott. I've seen bits of McKinney, and I've been like I said earlier, I've been impressed with him too. I didn't think he'd be this good right out of the box. I have taken him some time to grow into the season, but even just his freshman year, I think it's been better than I anticipated. I just really like Jordan Scott. I might be biased because I see more of him, of course, but I just love how Jordan Scott just fills in the cracks. He just does all the other little stuff. He's like I don't even know. He's like the housekeeper that comes in and everything's just, the table's set, all the dust is gone. He does all that little stuff for you that leads to winning games. Tip balls, saved them out of bounds, tipping them off the rim, deflecting passes, just being long in passing lanes and frustrating, just there's so many things he does that you can't actually track on paper that are positive winning plays, and I love that stuff. And he's a 6'7" body that can guard a lot of people, can shoot some threes for you. So give me Jordan Scott.
Okay, so it sounds like we have about a 2-2-1 breakdown here. Michigan State getting the edge at point guard and maybe a slight edge at the 2 now. Michigan getting an edge at the 3. And, maybe at the center position, and then depending on which Jack shows up, maybe it's even at the 4, maybe not. But close enough that if these teams played 7 times, I don't think it would be a sweep. And there aren't many teams in the Big Ten, I think, that go up against Michigan and feel real good about their chances. So, you get in the Big Ten tournament, especially if Michigan has won the regular season by a game or 2, maybe not quite as motivated, and you will find coaches, Stephen, who will tell you, take the loss on Saturday. If you already have the Big Ten championship, the real Big Ten championship, don't stick around till Sunday, because if you do and play a late game, and then you find out that you are traveling on Tuesday for a Thursday game, you basically chased the wrong prize. So I'm thinking there's a very good chance with as many competitive teams as we have at the upper echelon, talk about top 12 in the rankings, 5 of them, that you're going to have a different regular season champion and conference tournament champion.
Oh, I'd almost guarantee it. I'd be very surprised if it's the same team. Yeah, because I think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of teams that, and just the way the league is now, it's not as truly representative. Most of these teams are only going to face Michigan once,
right,
or only face Illinois once, let's call it, or Purdue, or whoever, Someone's not going to get the best, multiple teams are not going to get the greatest look at all the other top teams. So there's going to be someone that's like, we had that one bad night at Michigan, so let's go win this and show everybody or whatever. There's definitely going to be different motivations in play for some of those other teams. And like I said at the top, we've seen Michigan when they're playing the teams that everybody forgets about in the Big Ten, let's just call it that, they've struggled. Even going to Washington, they had a rough game out there where I think if they're just kind of not dialed in, which maybe would be the case if they just hung a regular season banner, that would be the opportunity to get them. When you talk MSU in them, I can't wait for that next game. I don't know how you can feel too great about it if you're MSU when you just lost by 12 on your home court. Like you said, that first game had different acts, but if it's a boxing match, Michigan won way more rounds than MSU did. Yeah. So, and that was on their home floor, and they finished better, including, that round, the last round. So, not that it's impossible, but, they definitely have the personnel and everything, but that'll be the one time where you can count on Chrysler being fairly full and whatnot, and there'll be a decent environment there.
Be jammed.
So, there'll be that. But, it's hard for me to look with that with much optimism if you're Michigan State right now, given that, the home game went the way it did. Not that it can't happen, but I do think a third meeting in a Big Ten tournament would be much more advantageous if that were to come together.
And I understand that in that last game of the season, Jeremy Fears is going to be treated in a way that very few Big Ten players have ever been treated. You have to go back to Scott Skiles, maybe Aaron Kraft a little bit for Ohio State, but he's going to hear some new words. And I also think that there's a chance that there's going to be a banner hanging there. Because if they are 2 games up and they've already locked it up, what a way to celebrate after a win over your rival and a sweep of Michigan State to hang your championship banner. So it's going to be a wild afternoon in Ann Arbor. We don't often say that with Michigan basketball, but
get the good cameras out for the handshake line for the 40 minutes of basketball.
Don't blink.
There's going to be so much beyond. Yeah, there's going to be so much beyond the court to analyze and digest and to fight about and yell about and argue over. It's going to be awesome. How about them playing Duke too in the middle of this title chase? I can't wait for that game either. I don't know how that's going to, I wouldn't love that if I'm Michigan, personally. I love it as a spectator. I can't wait to watch that game.
Yeah.
But, man, that's a weird time to play that game with what you have going on. So, and, of course, at Purdue, at Illinois still, both road games for Michigan. So maybe this isn't as much of a foregone conclusion as we've kind of talked about today. I don't know.
Stephen, one more thing about Michigan State Friday night. How important is the start? We've seen 4 straight bad starts for Michigan State.
If it's foul related, hugely troublesome. Because again, we have not really. I don't think, at least, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I don't think enough attention has really been put on the fact that they don't really have a backup point guard right now. Or at least not one they trust for more than 2 minutes at a time.
That's right.
So they got through the Illinois game fine, and everything was bandaged up to a way. And Jordan Scott has a nice night. And you're like, oh, Divine who? What was that thing about?
Yeah.
You didn't really even remember who is his deal. But there is going to be a game where you're like, oh, no, that guy's not out there,
Yeah.
So if it's a foul trouble thing like Whitfears or if it's Kohler even or Cooper, anybody really, if it's that type of bad start, that's going to be trouble because, there's no just working your way out of that. If it's kind of just your run-of-the-mill slow start because they haven't played in a week, tough environment, primetime game, whatever it might be, that's less troubling. It's not great. Yeah. But, again, I'll keep the streak going. This team has something in it at that 8 to 12 minute mark of the second half where they just know when it's time to buckle down and they make a move there. I feel like I mention that every week. So if they're just within striking distance, I have faith that they can make that happen again. But like I said, if it's a foul trouble thing and you got two of the core guys out for long stretches, I have a hard time seeing them come back from something like that in that type of road environment, not 60% full rack or something like that.
Stephen, last thing for you. Looking ahead to the Big Ten tournament, and I don't usually like to do that because I'm so caught up in the regular season championship, but of these 5 teams, Michigan, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, Purdue, one of them is not going to get the double bye. Or I guess now you could technically say the triple bye because they have the play-in. But which of those teams is not going to be a 1 through 4 seed?
So without having the schedule matrix in front of me, which is really probably what will decide it, I'm just going to say Nebraska because they're the team I trust the least. They're the team I think is the worst of that bunch. A couple of us reporters were arguing about this the other day. I don't think they're that legit. They've had a nice season. Give them credit. It's been a fun story. But I wouldn't pick them over any of those other top 4 teams in a series on a neutral court.
Yeah.
Any of that stuff. I don't think they're in the same tier as those other schools. So, and I know their schedule's pretty light.
Yeah.
I think that maybe they have to go to Iowa, which could be tricky. They think they still have their West Coast trip, which is going to be we've seen is not always easy. So you wouldn't see a lot of their losses on their schedule. But I just don't. I've never loved their team, and they've shown me they've come. They've won 21 games with this team. But they're the last team of players that I would pick to go win me a game. So I'll say them. But it could be Michigan State, too, to be honest. It could be almost any of them except Michigan. It won't be Michigan. Could be anybody else. Definitely could be Purdue. I think Purdue's going to be the ultimate spoiler, though.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to keep ruining people's dreams here near the end. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now. But, I just don't like Nebraska. Don't trust them. Don't fully buy into them. Tip my cap. I hope they've had a fun year, but I just don't think they're as good as their record.
It's interesting because Nebraska doesn't really pass the eye test. And they don't have any publicity, notoriety coming in. And so it's a leap of faith to say, okay, they're there. But I look at what they have done. They beat Wisconsin by 30. They beat Michigan State in the biggest game ever played in Pinnacle Bank Arena. Maybe the biggest game ever played in Lincoln. They went into Ann Arbor and completely dominated that game. I mean, they were down 2 starters. They were down their second and third best player. And Michigan led that game for 2 minutes. And there was a questionable call at the end with Trey McKinney that gave them the winning basket. So I think almost everyone would say Nebraska certainly acquitted itself well, maybe deserved to win that game. They won at Illinois. So I think you can look at what even Tuesday night, they were down 22 points and came back and should have won that game against Purdue. And Rinkmass missed a free throw, which would have given them an incredible comeback win. So I guess I'm done doubting the Huskers.
I hear you. You said it at the top for me. I just can't get over the eye test. And when the chips are down, and I'm happy for the season they've had, but if my life was on the line, I just can't get myself there to pick that team to win that game for me.
Yeah.
I think the Purdue game kind of, Purdue went into their house and did that. They did storm back and everything, but I think that showed to me that they are a little fake. They're good, they're solid, but I'm not sure they're a second weekend NCAA team, to be quite honest. Maybe.
Wow.
I think the Sweet 16 is probably their ceiling.
Yeah.
But they're not a Final Four team. They're not a Big Ten title team to me. They're a bit below that.
If they had won either of those games in Ann Arbor or last night, they would have 2 league losses, and they would be done with their games against the other top 5 teams. Whereas Michigan still has to play the games we talked about. And if Nebraska had won that game in Ann Arbor, I think its chances to be a 1 seed would be very good. Anyway, Stephen, thanks so much.
The worst 1 seed in years.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Am I going to see you in Madison?
Yes, you are. Am I going to see you?
Yes.
We both going?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not together, but we are going, leaving at 8:30 tomorrow morning. When are you going?
Ooh, just a couple hours after that. I'm picking up my car sometime a little about an hour after 9:30ish, something like that.
Okay.
And maybe within an hour or so after that, hitting the road and making my way around. Yeah, looking forward to it. Never been to Kohl Center, one of the last few places I have to get to.
Okay. It's for the big arenas, the big multi-purpose arenas, and you think, well, it's antiseptic, and it could be, but when Wisconsin is good, it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like some 19,000-seat arena. It's much more intimate than that when they really get it going. I will see you at Kohl Center tomorrow night.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
We will be right back.
I'll tell you, Jack, real quick.
Yeah.
That talk that Stephen was talking about Nebraska, that's like the Connor Eargood Indiana football fraud alert. I was ready to set off the sirens.
That's set off the fraud watch. That's right.
Yeah. Exactly. Buddy.
So I think I have to get this information to our friend Chris Schmidt and let them know what Stephen just said about Nebraska.
Bulletin board material from Nebraska men's basketball team?
I think
Stephen Brooks? Okay.
Yeah, and if Michigan State and Nebraska play in Chicago in the Big Ten tournament, there may be some Huskers who park their tractors outside the arena and come looking for Brooks. That's possible, too. All right, when we get back.
Some sort of farm equipment will be used.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We're going to talk sports analytics with the doctor. Dr. Albert Cohen is in studio. And nobody loves hockey more than Prince Al. But we're going to talk about pulling goaltenders and what the prevailing wisdom is and why it is wrong. We'll be right back on The Drive with Jack.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Some great product here in early 2026.
You got it, Jack. Here at Chevy, we have, backed by popular demand, the all-new Bolt. Redesigned and back in full force for us. People are really excited about that vehicle. It did great for us in the past.
Great.
And then next door, the Nissan Sentra, completely redesigned for that model. Great fuel economy. It's going to be a hot seller for us.
Stop and see Matt and the gang at Graph of Okemos. They're making friends.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Amy here from One North Kitchen and Bar. Tuesdays are family fun night at One North. Kids under 12 eat free with the purchase of an adult entree. Bring the whole crew to One North in Lansing, Jackson, or now East Lansing. Good food, happy kids, and an easy win for the family every Tuesday.
Are you passionate about college sports? Foster Swift Sports Talk is your go-to podcast dedicated to addressing the hottest topics in college athletics, including recruiting practices, NIL, the trade portal, collectives, and revenue generation.
Join us as we bring you insights from student athletes, college head coaches, administrators, and other industry leaders as they share their experiences in this rapidly changing arena.
Our mission is to share information and help educate student athletes, parents, coaches, and other stakeholders with the knowledge, resources, and strategies they need to make informed decisions and maximize each college athlete's potential for long-term success. Check out our latest episode where we're joined by Trav Moore and Coach Rob Zimmerman from DeWitt to discuss their state championship run. Like and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages to watch all of our episodes, or you can give us a listen on any of your favorite podcasting platforms by simply searching Foster Swift Sports Talk. Until next time, I'm your host, Dave Russell.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Well done, Rob. Very happy to welcome in studio.
For our next guest, real quick, I was looking for some like Canadian, like Celine Dion or maybe Bryan Adams or something like that. But didn't have that yet. So sorry to our next guest. I wanted to feel a little Canadian for him.
But some Tragically Hip maybe, or some Chilliwack. Okay. That's a deep cut right there.
That would work.
Some Prism. Some Loverboy.
Right.
Loverboy.
Yeah, Mike Reno.
All right, good for future reference.
Absolutely.
I think you can help Rob with his 80s show, the music show he does, so you two can work together on that.
You've been holding
Did you know about this?
No, I did not.
No, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
Jack will tell you.
Well, I actually used to have a heavy metal radio show when I was a grad
Did you?
student. Absolutely. We got to meet all these gentlemen, and they were phenomenal. Some of the nicest people you'll ever meet are some of the meanest looking heavy metal dudes.
Huh. Interesting. Well, we talk about heavy metal. I guess that's the Duel in the D trophy, right? That's heavy metal.
That was phenomenal. And I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for a gentleman from MSU Hockey, Dan Sturgis. I miss him every day.
Yeah.
He was a gentleman that left a legacy for a lot of people. Some young guys are now working in the NHL as analysts thanks to the start he gave them.
I wanted to ask you about that, and I didn't know we do it off the top, but this is perfect. A lot of people knew Dan as a former Michigan State player. Some knew him as director of ops. Some knew the family, the bloodlines, with his dad, who was a terrific player here, his brother. Mm-hmm. When you think of Dan Sturgis, what stood out? What made him special and so valuable to this program?
Whenever I'd see him after a game, you know, and it would be a big win or a big loss, especially if it was a big win, you'd have this little wry smile on him, like, yeah, we got him. But it wasn't the sort of, braggadocious, things that we think of as fans.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, this is my job. We did it well. I'm proud of the people that I helped, as part of my job. But he was always cognizant of other people around him, including, I think, the opposition. Like, I really think he was a guy that, people have reached out to me that, worked in other teams, and they were so kind, and they're saying, I hope you guys are doing okay, and this has just torn us apart. Hockey is an amazing sport because it is, we were just talking about heavy
family.
metal. Yes, absolutely. The sort of the outside image of people fighting and people body checking and blood and all these things.
Why is that more in hockey than some other sports?
I think the more dangerous the sport, I think the more kind of, you can understand the sort of
race
chaos.
car drivers have that.
Yeah, the fragility of life. In the sense like, you've seen, remember Clint Malarchuk, remember?
With the skate cut?
Yes. Yeah.
That was scary.
Yeah, purple. The blood was purple on the ice. I think there's just such a brotherhood, like just such a family, like you said, a connection in hockey that I've gotten to see. Grew up in Canada as a kid, and this is this is the geekiest moment I've ever had in my life, going up to the press box and seeing these folks, seeing guys like Rob Woodward, draft pick.
Yeah.
Hands is just huge. When you shake it. But again, just a gentleman. And you ask them these stories, and they'll go back and tell you the stories, just like you, Jack. I mean, you can reach back 50 years and tell us, like, we're right in the locker room with you. And hockey is just an amazing sport. Hockey is just a bunch of people that love what they do, and they respect each other, but they're competitors on the ice, and they know how to separate the two. And I think that's something in society we're kind of maybe losing a bit of.
Yeah.
There's competition, and then there's, just general humans who just get along.
One of the things that Dan Sturgis did well, and I don't think he ever really got enough credit for it, was deciding when to challenge.
Do you remember that? Was it Wisconsin last year?
Yes, and it's happened more than you would think, where you don't have a lot of time. You got to see it, and you got to know it, and you got to be decisive.
Yep.
And you have to be good enough at it that the head coach is going to trust you, because you're risking your timeout, momentum, everything else that goes with it when it's unsuccessful. But that's something too, that all the little things. Jared DeMichael was telling me about the lunches, and it got to be quite the thing about what was coming for lunch, and Dan Sturgis had ways of mixing it up and tricking people and all of that, and it became quite the thing in the department. So
yeah, I miss him. I just was giving him a big hug, seeing him at the bottom of the stairs of the press box, and just talking. I mean, we would just talk a lot about like he said, Albert, I'll teach you hockey, you teach me math. Like, done. we just chat, And I remember one time, we came back from a meeting. He used to come to the hockey meetings with the kids, and I remember he drove us back on the golf cart, and it was one of the scariest golf cart rides of my life. But you can't show fear. So we got off and gave him a hug and talked to him, and just he was always full of plans for the future in terms of what we're going to do with the group, what we're going to do with the stuff we wanted to talk about, and how we're going to build things. He was just one of those guys that was comfortable talking to anybody, and especially wanted young people to succeed. And you can see it now. There's a legacy he's left. I mean, a couple guys at the Dallas Stars, they started here.
Yeah.
Well,
you have a lot of people, young, exceptionally bright students working with you who are going to be working for clubs or leagues.
I believe so. And we'll bring a couple more of them back in the studio.
Good. I have to ask you about Max Gracer, right?
Yeah.
Tell us who he is and why we should care.
So I think he is the son of, it's Alex Grazerman. This was the article in the New York Times. So I got to shout out my friend Bob Reitz, who's out in Asheville, North Carolina. So he reads the New York Times, religiously, I think, every weekend. He's retired. He says he's retired anyway. And so he sent me this article, right? Super Bowl Sunday. He said, you got to check this out. And so essentially this gentleman, the dad, is a quant. So this is a quantitative financial analyst using PhD level math and statistics to basically structure bets, essentially in Wall Street, in investment. So this is something you do on a daily basis, hourly basis, minute basis. You're doing either high frequency trading, or you're just looking at markets in general. I'm not speaking for him or anybody, but essentially that's your job. And you live with randomness. You live with uncertainty. And so he basically put that kind of thinking into his son, and how his son is training to play golf. And I think his son is doing pretty well, but he's also comfortable not necessarily with results, but the way he's playing. He's understanding that you can't beat variance. I think that's one of the quotes in that New York Times article, that you're going to have shots that miss the mark a little bit, but you got to look at things in aggregate. Not
a game of perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah. So some of the research done on strategy in hockey at the end of the game, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, the idea of when you pull a goaltender and how it's different if you are 1 goal down or 2 goals down.
Yep.
Can you summarize that for our listeners?
Absolutely. So the prevailing wisdom is that coaches don't pull, fast, soon enough.
Yeah.
They kind of wait too long.
Yeah.
And so the article in the New York Times that I sent you is essentially, the gentleman is saying, let's take an example of goalies, that coaches wait too long to pull the goalie. They don't want to look, foolish, let's say, on the podium, talking to the media afterwards. And
They're
so
risk averse.
Exactly. That's the exact way to put it. And so that risk aversion basically takes away from your ability to tie the game. And so in his viewpoint, and I do agree with that, by the way, to some extent, but it's always a question of when. It's like Goldilocks, not too soon, not too late, somewhere in the middle. And that somewhere in the middle really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to win the game? Are you just trying to tie the game? How aggressive do you want to be? So yeah, in our studies we've seen that yes, the golden time is somewhere between 4 and 6 minutes.
Wow.
And there's some uncertainty because some of the work that's been done since the 1970s has looked at goals come in, let's say, in 10-second increments.
Yeah.
And so if we look at a 10-second increment and then recurse backwards,
right,
then we can say, okay, fine, either you score a goal, they score a goal, or most likely nothing happens. And so you do this backwards algorithm, and you can figure out, okay, if I want to maximize my expected points gained, you see this beautiful sort of parabolic-looking curve, and where it hits the max, that's when you should pull.
When did this start to change? Because I remember going to Olympia Stadium back in the 60s and 70s, and team was down by 1 goal. They might pull with a minute to go, 45 seconds to go, depending where the puck was. It didn't seem like it was enough time, and the research would indicate that. But you never saw a goalie come out with 2 minutes to go in a game.
I think Patrick Roy, who ironically, I remember, when he left the Canadiens, it was because I think he said he was left in too long, or he felt he was left in too long. But ironically, I think he's the guy that, to me, in recent memory, has been a bit more risk-seeking, not risk-averse.
Yeah.
Probably say in the last 10 or 15 years, I think you're starting to see this a bit more.
So how does this change when you are 2 goals down?
Pull earlier. And so the research we're going to be talking about next week in Albion, and we're going to be posting this. So before I say anything else, Emilio Esposito, who's at Michigan State University, he's the co-author of this paper, dear friend of mine, also teaches in our graduate certificate in sports analytics, superstar. We put together some computer code, and essentially the exception that we've made is that people look at goals as being singular events. You have 1 goal down, 2 goal down. But if you ever watch pro sports now, you'll see what this thing called expected goals, or XG. And so there's XG that you got, and there's XG that the team opposing you has. And if you look at the difference, that's going to be like a decimal number. And so you're not necessarily 1 goal down or 2 goals down. You might be, if the score says you're down 3-2, you're not necessarily 1 goal down. You might be 0.9 goals down, or you might be 1.1 goals down because that action is brewing. So every action that takes place on the ice, I would argue, adds some of that incremental score deficit. Not necessarily just XG when the puck's on the tape or not of your stick, but essentially in game. And so it really comes back down to the estimation, I believe, of the coach and somebody in the press box that we were talking about that can say, okay, fine, pull now, because we really feel that this action is brewing towards a goal, and now's the right time. So 1 goal down, 2 goal down, we actually have a nice, beautiful, continuous curve. We actually came up with a function. And it's using tools from computational finance and engineering, where we actually said, okay, fine, if we look at this as what's called the diffusion, like heat or ink diffuses in a medium, essentially this score deficit also diffuses in a medium. And so we found out that, yes, there's a beautiful curve, that if you cross that curve, that's when you should pull.
So let's say you're down by a goal. If I miss go and you don't pull your goaltender, maybe there's a penalty involved, whatever the case is, but you don't ever get that man advantage. What's your likelihood of scoring to tie the game even strength?
That's a good question. So in every 10-second interval, in I think up until the mid-2010s, I think the data showed 0.0065 chance, so 0.5% chance in every 10-second interval.
Okay.
So not very good.
Okay, so I was thinking, let's just say it's 10%. You have a 10% chance to score.
Sure.
Okay. And that doesn't mean the other team wouldn't score.
Right.
But just you have a 10% chance of getting the goal you would need to, at minimum, tie. Send it into overtime. If you pull and you have 6 skaters against 5, how much does your likelihood of scoring go up?
That's a beautiful question. What happens is that your chances roughly triple of scoring, but the opponent's 6 times more. So what you're doing is you're essentially buying volatility. So I talked to a friend of mine who works at a hedge fund. I won't say which one, and he was like, Albert, like the Sharpe ratio is wrong. You shouldn't do this. But the idea is that you're trying to maximize your probability of tying. And so you make this trade essentially that, yes, I'm going to increase the chance of me getting scored on, but essentially there's an underlying volatility that you're pumping up to increase your chance of scoring.
Okay. I'm thinking that it depends on your personnel.
Yes.
Too.
100%.
What your power play is like normally.
Yep.
And a lot of it has to do with the character of a team and the personality of a coach. Dan Campbell in football goes for it on 4th down more than other coaches. For the Lions, they're known for doing it, and sometimes when it works, fans love it, and when it don't, they what's wrong with that idiot? But My point about the pulling the goaltender, and I've talked to Koepke about this too. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether you lose 2-1, 3-1, 5-1, or 8-1. It doesn't matter.
100%.
Right?
You're right.
It's an L.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you pull earlier, maybe earlier than we've ever thought, to get the chance to not lose?
Yeah, no, I mean, so some of the earlier research was more aggressive. They said if you're down, I was at 2 goals, you should pull with a couple of minutes left in the second period. It's
really?
Yeah, and then some people said, well, depending if you're the stronger team or they're the stronger team, it's like, you put 4 economists in a room, you're going to get 5 opinions. That's the joke, right? But that's essentially what's happening, is that there really is no good answer, and we think partial answer to this is exactly what you're saying, which is your level of risk aversion.
Yeah.
But also we think that it's not a 1 or 2 goal difference. It's really a continuum between 1 and 2 goals. I mean, you might be down 1 goal on the scoreboard, but you're leaning towards being 2 goals down because your play is, like you said, you're just slowing down, your legs are tired.
Yeah.
Or you might be 1 goal down on the scoreboard, but you're really only half a goal down because you're doing really well. Your character is good. You're about to score that goal.
Right.
And that should determine where, you should pull. But that's where the uncertainty comes from, we believe. It's not necessarily risk aversion. It's really the coach's estimation of how his team is doing. We think that the coach is essentially risk neutral. It's just that we don't understand his, appraisal of how far down they are. And we see this a lot, ironically, and I'm going to bring this up a lot, in credit risk modeling. You don't necessarily know the internals of a company, right, when you're trying to figure out the credit quality, because you can only see maybe the equity and bond prices out there. But you don't know the total internal assets of a company. You don't know any information that the firm manager, she might know.
Right.
So you can just make an estimate. And so, I mean, again, like there's a beautiful paper that came out, a guy from Harvard, who talked about there's a volatility of sports deficits. And he uses, to imply that volatility, he actually uses gambling data. It's a beautiful paper. Came out in 2015, open access, Journal of Quantitative Analytics in Sports, great journal.
Yeah.
A gentleman's name is Harold Stern, I believe. And he and Nick Polson, they put out this paper, and they talked about, okay, fine, the way that the score differential will jump is not uniform. It depends on the time of the game. And they actually looked at the Super Bowl, the lights out game in Superdome.
Yeah.
And they talked about how that jumped. I mean, when the lights came out and when the lights came back on. And there's a lot of nuance in there, but we really do believe that there's a risk neutrality at some point for the coach, just that they've got information that we don't have.
So
let me jump in here real quick, Jack, if I can, because I'm getting really smart all of a sudden.
You're from Boston, of course you are.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. But can you quantify momentum for the team? They might be, let's say a team's down by a goal, but in the second period they're coming out, they're flying, they're doing everything but scoring. Is there a way to quantify the momentum of a game into this whole scenario?
Puck possession, shots on goal in a period of time, anything that would
absolutely you could, and that would be the probability of you scoring in the next, that probability would go up or down, and that probability going up or down in the discrete sense, when you go to the continuous sense, would be the volatility of this diffusion. So yes, short answer is absolutely, that's exactly what you would do.
So all 1 goal deficits and 2 goal deficits are not created equal?
Yes. See, Jack, that's why you're the storyteller and I'm just a mathematician. Absolutely right.
So how are coaches responding to this and to your data and all the information that you sent me?
Mm-hmm.
Are they buying in? Are they excited to get it? Or are they resistant?
So Emilio's going to bug me about this because we haven't posted the paper yet. I've been bugging him to post it. But I'm giving the talk first. Yeah. This is the first public place I'm talking about is with you. Just like we broke the grad certificate with you.
Yeah.
But I'm giving the talk, academic talk next week. But we hope people are amenable to it, because that's the thing we've noticed, is that for you to do the traditional work, which is either recursively going backwards or anything like this, it's a complicated simulation. But we think we have a simple formula that says, like, when this is maximized, you pull. That's it.
How much would it help you and other researchers if you got some coaches to completely buy in, 2, 3, 5, whatever, and it worked? And then in the post game, they said, normally we wouldn't have done this, but there's new research out, and it intrigued us, so we decided we were going to apply it, and here's the score.
It would be tremendously helpful. And I think I found about sports is that once you get, associated with folks, they give you a little bit of trust, and if you pay them back, it's an exponentially growing relationship. And you mentioned Dan Campbell. I'll bring up Mike McDonald. He gave a game ball against that game, Indianapolis, where they beat Phillip Rivers and all that. He gave a game ball to the time clock guy because he said, look, they called the timeout at the right point. And that essentially, in my opinion, kind of
interesting.
That controls the flow of the game. Right? Yes, we know they're going to score, but give us enough time to kick the field goal and win. It's kind of like I'm a Steelers fan, so going back to that, when Tomlin was talking about against that game against Arizona, right, where it was that beautiful catch by Santonio Holmes, but they were up against it because they were down, and but at least he said if you watch some of the NFL films, it's like if they had to score, I'm glad they scored quick. Time is really a big factor in games.
Santonio Holmes, one of just 6 Big Ten players to be Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. We know another one.
Excuse me. So when you think about the odds of a player becoming Super Bowl MVP and going to Disneyland, we know the guy who does all of those narrations. He does them ahead of time. But he had never thought that he would have to do, hey, Kenneth Walker and Sam Darnold, what are you doing? And that had never happened before, so they had to rush him kind of into duty with that. But in terms of the odds of that, is there any way to predict who the MVP is going to be of a game?
I think that there are prediction markets that are doing that already.
Yeah,
I was watching that before the game. I mean, Kenneth Walker, we saw him against that first game was at Northwestern. He just broke out those runs, and a star was born. He just knew it. And so, again, Hines Ward.
right.
At the game here in Detroit. You just know that there are some players that you can't cover everybody, but there are some players that even if you did, like Kenneth Walker is just a generational talent. He's a very patient runner. In that game, the Super Bowl, they compared him to Le'Veon Bell, right? But he just picks his spots, and he is just so powerful the way he runs. And I've heard he's a very nice, humble gentleman.
He is. He absolutely is. You mentioned the Steelers, so I have to bring this up now. Are you going to miss Mike Tomlin?
I'm going to miss Mike Tomlin, the character. I'm going to miss the way he set the standard. I'm going to miss the way he led that team. I'm very happy that that team has stability in coaching. But the NFL
they've had young coaches historically, right? With Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. That's not Mike McCarthy.
It's not. I spent 6 of the best years of my life in Pittsburgh, as a grad student at Carnegie Mellon. And there is a Pittsburgh guy, style, or it really does exist. Being from Pittsburgh, it's,
How would you define it?
It is. It's blue collar. Somebody that doesn't have any airs about him. Somebody that just gets to work. Those stereotypes really are true, and you see a lot of it in Pittsburgh. And I think that at this point they kind of needed to find a coach in a hurry. He was available. He's got a fantastic pedigree. Obviously, beat them in that Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and so. I think it made sense at the time. Will I miss Mike Tomlin? Yes, I'll miss him just being on the sideline. I miss the way he would speak to the folks around him, both in the media and his players, and you get like a peek behind the curtain there.
Famous for never having had the losing season. That was it. But for a lot of fans there I talked to, said, I don't care. Let him have 3 losing seasons, but we want to do something when we get there.
You need to rebuild, and it's so hard. Somebody said this to me, I think that college football and pro football, obviously they're completely different. Look at Tim Tebow, for example, right?
Yeah.
But the NFL, there is this beautiful parity that you've got that it's reversion to the mean. Look at Kansas City this year, right? I think that, yes, if you kind of take your lumps a little bit, draft well, draft a bunch of quarterbacks till you get the right one, Do
you agree that teams should draft a quarterback every other year?
If you've got good development, yes. If you look at Sam Darnold going first overall, didn't help anybody, especially Sam Darnold. Not until now.
Yeah. Well, going to the Jets, that was a prison sentence.
Yeah.
I heard people say leading up to the game, Sam Darnold, what's he ever done? I said, what could anyone have done with the Jets? And then he went to Carolina. That wasn't any better. Then he went to San Francisco. He was a backup on a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, but he learned from Shanahan,
Yeah, people don't stay the same. Teams don't stay the same.
No.
That's one of the problems we have in the media. And if we are presenting the information, we take snapshots or try to put people in a border, right? And that's what it's fluid. Everybody changes. You get better or you get worse.
True.
Sam Darnold has gotten better to the point that in the last 2 years, he's led his team to 31 wins.
I think that also there's a recency bias. Those last 2 games you played at Minnesota maybe kind of started people on it. But the body of work is there. Like you said, the ascendancy in his talent. And again, ask any Minnesota player, behind closed doors, would they want Sam Darnold back? Of course, they'd say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about the paper you are doing. Can you give us one or two of the exciting things that your students are working on?
Absolutely. So Joey Larrabee,
Oh,
fan
yeah.
of the show.
Joey, yeah.
Joey and I are working a couple papers. We're looking, one of them to do with draft modeling in the NFL. So
Great.
Yeah, applying Moneyball to this. So
Can we get you on before the NFL draft?
Absolutely. And you know where it is this year?
This year.
The draft. I'll give you a hint, Steelers.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, they've had it Detroit, Green Bay, Buffalo, Kansas City, right? So why not Pittsburgh?
It's setting the town alight. I mean, everybody's excited. I read the media there, and everybody's excited about it coming. It's going to be one of the bigger events, I think, in the city of Pittsburgh. I don't know if they'll ever get a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But this is, this is fantastic for that city.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we'd love to come. I mean, or even just Joey without me. I mean, he's a superstar. He's a great talker.
No. We want the entire analytics team to be involved with this show where you can. But you had so many bright-eyed, very sharp students. When I came over to talk to them, I was very impressed. I felt better about the future when I left. I said, if these are the people who are going to be making decisions and they're taking this stuff very seriously, I feel better than just somebody with a whim or personal agenda.
No, without
making
question.
Decisions.
No, all of my professorial assistants. So one of them, Derek Lasker, is now at the Dallas Stars. Let's see, Grayson Zlansky, also recent. He's now helping with the analytics and the data they're taking still with MSU. I've got other students that have gone off to data science jobs, things like that. I think it's how you treat people. At the end of the day, I'm a public servant. Now, you pay my salary. Rob pays my salary. I mean, we're a state university. Your tax dollars and their tuition pays my salary, and it's just fun to see these kids succeed. And you get to know them for a couple years, and then down the road they come back and they say thank you for this, and can we recruit from your university? We've got this opening, and it's just amazing to be part of that cycle. I've been here for almost 20 years, and it feels like it's gone by in an instant.
And it was great to see you at your birthday party.
Thank you.
That was big fun.
It's weird being 50.
Yeah. I was trying to surprise you.
You did. You honestly did.
Because, I'd gotten the word, and there was a little strategy how we were going to do it. But I was down in Detroit. I was there for the Michigan State-Oakland game. And I said, am I going to be able to do this? And then I pulled in, and I said, I think we can pull this off. So it worked out.
I love and appreciate you, my friend. There's not many people like you, and there's not many people like Boston Rob sitting in that office over there. You guys are phenomenal people. You're part of the Lansing infrastructure. When you came and we had that seminar with Jalen Watts Jackson.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing telling us stories from Ohio State and just reaching back those years. And those kids were hanging on your every word.
Yeah.
And then coming up and getting your books signed.
Well, we're going to be hanging on their every word moving forward for generations.
No question. No, you're going to see some of these kids in the front office. I have no doubt about it.
Dr. Albert Cohen, Michigan State, and I could give you his academic resume, but hey, we've only got another 41 minutes of the show. We will be back in just a minute. We're going to talk with Richard Kincaide, who spends a lot of time at Little Caesars Arena covering the Red Wings, and an author. He wrote the book, The Gods of Olympia Stadium. So he will be up next here on The Drive with Jack.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Hey Jack, I'm looking for a lunch deal that actually scores.
One North Kitchen and Bar has a 2 for $12 lunch combo, right, Jeremy?
Absolutely. We can mix and match half sandwiches, salads, soups, or classics like cheese quesadillas and personal pizzas. Weekdays 11 to 2 and Saturdays from 10 to 2.
One North.
Easy win.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graf of Okemos. Great time to get a great vehicle.
Fantastic time, Jack. 0% financing is back. Hard to believe this time right now we can get a vehicle with zero interest.
Wow.
And if you're looking to pay cash, how about rebates up to $10,000? That's unheard of lately, right? $10,000 off on a vehicle. How about leasing? You want to lease? You can lease a vehicle right now in the low threes. Come on out and take a look.
You're talking everyone's language. Stop and see Matt and the gang. They're making friends.
Welcome back. It is the Drive with Jack Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer, Boston Rob. We're in studio. This is In Studio Show 11. And you can find us. People are starting to do that, Rob, on YouTube. They can follow along. They can come back and watch it later if they like. See the video
multiple
aspects.
Times? Who wouldn't want to see you multiple times in a day?
I don't know anybody who would do that consciously, but
somebody's got to be out there.
Yeah,
to do
but
that.
you get to see people like Dr. Albert Cohen.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So,
Great segment.
Yeah,
by
that's
the good doctor.
Always fun. And you know who would have enjoyed that? Because the talk was about when do you pull a goaltender. Our
Let's
next
get
guest,
our next guest thoughts on that.
Rich Kincaide. He is our Detroit correspondent and spends a lot of time covering the Detroit Red Wings and the National Hockey League. Have you thought about that much, Rich, about when is the best time, the optimal time to pull a goaltender?
Jack, I guess I've been thinking about it since I was a little kid, but I've never heard it quantified in that fashion, that your chances of giving up a goal increased by a factor of 6.
That's right.
While your chances of scoring a goal increased by a factor of 3. That was
That's right.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
You have such great guests, Jack, and then I come on.
Well, you know when you would not want to pull the goaltender?
Tell me.
When you have Rich Kincaide in goal.
Oh, look out. Well, those were the days. Absolutely. You know what the book on me was when I was a goaltender?
What's that?
Shoot it on net.
Just don't miss wide, right? You'll be all right.
Yeah, hey, put it on net. It'll go in. No problem. Yeah. Good times. Jack, heading down to Florida here weekend yesterday. Catch up on the Tigers.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. Catching up with Justin Verlander and all. A coincidence today. I'm doing some house cleaning, and I came upon a notebook from May of 1978, and I believe I've unearthed the notebook that carries my notes from the first Tigers game I ever covered.
How about
May
that?
of 19. It's unbelievable. I'm watching John Walkenfuss and Ron LaFleur and Steve Kemp and Jason Thompson and John Walkenfuss and John Hiller, for that matter.
Yeah.
You know, up there in the press box I'm 22 years old, and I'm covering Major League Baseball, and I can't I can't believe I'm doing it while I'm doing it. That's how that. Did I ever tell you how my career started?
You asked about getting a credential, right? Or how
Absolutely.
You can go ahead, tell us that story in the Cliff Notes, 90 seconds or less.
Absolutely. I was working for the country station there in Lansing, just out of Michigan State, and I got an idea to cover the Tigers, and my news director said, well, it probably cost $700 or $800 just to get a credential, which didn't sound right to me, so I called the Tigers, and I get Hal Middlesworth, their PR director, a gruff guy, and I posed the question, how much does a credential cost? There's silence on the phone, and then he goes, well, young man, they're free to, credential media or authorized media, whatever. And I said, well, how do I become an authorized media? And he told me, and there I was a month later covering Major League Baseball, and we haven't looked back since.
How about that?
John Walkenfuss, indeed, yeah.
So you covered baseball before you covered hockey?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, baseball was my gateway drug. As soon as I was covering the Tigers, I was able to cover the Red Wings, the Pistons, and everybody else. And that's how that went.
So everyone has a greatest athlete they have covered, and that's pretty clear in some cases when you see statistical performances and championships. But they also have a favorite athlete? Maybe the way that the player comported himself, the way he treated people. Do you have a favorite athlete you've covered?
I think I have a few.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders was always very gracious, and the pleasure of watching him play week in and week out.
Yeah.
Same with Stevie Eiserman. He's backed away from media commitments since he became general manager. You don't see him that much anymore. But he was always terrific to deal with. And another guy that pops up in the news right now, Justin Verlander.
Okay.
Now, in a room full of millionaires, Justin Verlander he was the best dressed Tiger. And I'm going back to his prime in the early 20-teens, right?
Yeah.
When it was one of his suits back then, they had to cost $5,000-$7,000. Just, unbelievable stuff. And I heard from a very good source that he wore a watch that was worth $35,000.
Is that right?
Absolutely. But in terms, some guys, they bring it in from the field. They're great competitors and everything, but they're all mad as heck when they get back to the locker room. So that sort of deal. Justin wasn't like that. He's a great competitor. The numbers prove that. But he'd always come in and answer your questions. Like anybody else, you try not to ask inane questions, but he'd answer them. I'm looking forward to putting a microphone in front of his face again here in the near future.
Rich, there are media members who don't go to games. They just sit and pontificate in their underwear. And then there are media members who go occasionally, and then there are those who really cover the teams and get to know the athletes.
Right.
And as far as the Detroit pro teams, unlike the colleges here, I've been in the second group because I haven't been down there often enough to get a vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame or anything else, but I might be down there 10, 15, 20 times a year. But in 2006, it was different. I was writing a book on the Tigers. So I was down there 61 times and got to know the players a little bit better. And Verlander, he's just coming up. He's a rookie. But that's when they had Kenny Rogers, and, of course, they had that memorable series win over the Yankees and get to the World Series, and the pitchers, can't remember how to field a bunt.
I know, 8 errors.
Yeah. But there were a couple guys there, and people say, well, who did you like? Who did you really respect? And guys that most fans would not expect me to say. Like I always knew I could get stuff from Todd Jones. And I always knew I could get great stuff from Sean Casey. And the other guy who, you talk about wanting your daughter to marry someone. Curtis Granderson, to me, was about as high quality an individual as I have run into in professional sports. But, none of those guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right. No, as a reporter, you're always looking for that. After a bad loss.
Yes.
You need somebody that and in the early days of covering the Tigers, it was somebody like Alan Trammell.
Yeah.
Or Rusty Staub.
Yeah.
Although he could be salty.
Trammell was good, though.
But you always hoped you had a couple of guys in your back pocket that would talk to you after a loss.
Right.
And of course, you always have the other locker room from which to glean information.
That's right. That is absolutely right.
I'm thinking here, Jack. I'm looking at Verlander's baseball reference page, and I'm thinking this could be a segment unto itself. You talk drafted number 2 in 2004, not 2024, but drafted second overall in 2. You know who went in front of him? You won't because it's arcane. But it was somebody named Matt Bush was the pick ahead of Verlander. He went on to sport a career record of 12-11.
Wow.
So
just think if that choice had been different.
Exactly. I was thinking the very same thing. What's the most games Verlander ever lost in a season?
14?
17.
17?
He won 18 in 2007 and then lost 17 in 2008 and then came back to win 19 in 2009.
Yeah. How many 21 seasons?
He didn't, let's see, he's had the 24 wins and that's it.
One.
He's only had one 21 season.
Wow. Well, you don't have many 21 seasons anymore.
No, you sure don't.
Pitchers only pitch 31 times, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, and they only pitch 5 to 6 innings per start.
Right.
So, yeah, wins aren't certainly not what they used to be. But let's remember, it's only 4 years ago he won 18 with the Houston Astros.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm not expecting. He turns 43
He'll be 43,
on the 20th.
That's right.
So he's in his age 43 season. We know that athletes are lasting longer now through a variety of reasons, and he's kept himself in good shape. I mean, he's completed 20 years of major league service at this point.
Yeah.
So, what would you judge a successful Verlander season to be this year? I'm thinking if he could win 10, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, and I don't want to quantify it with wins because I think wins are so erratic. But I think if he can give them solid innings, reliable starts, quality starts, and keep the ERA around 4 or under, if it gets up to 5.5, then I think that becomes Charlie Morton territory.
Yeah, that could well be.
Yeah.
Did you see the story on Castellanos today?
I saw something yesterday about the Phillies not signing him.
Yeah, beer in the clubhouse, apparently, right, Rich?
It's worse than that. He had beer in the dugout.
No, beer in the dugout. Yes. Yeah.
Beer in the dugout.
We have beer in the clubhouse all the time.
Yeah.
Always
beer in the
dugout.
The yes.
Yeah, beer in the an open container in the dugout. He got yanked in a game in Miami for defensive purposes last June. In the 8th inning of a 2-run game, and he was so incensed about he'd been disrespected by being taken out of the game, as opposed to thinking, well, maybe it makes sense to get a better glove out there at this point in the ball game.
Right.
Anyways, he was so upset he takes a beer from the clubhouse, brings it back to the dugout, and begins berating his manager. And the Phillies, apparently, Dave Dombrowski and crew, they spent the entire rest of the summer trying to figure out what to do with Castellanos, and today they dumped him, and in so doing, ate $20 million of his contract. Yeah, $20 million.
So what happens to Nick now?
Well, that's a good question. You want to see him back in Detroit?
No.
17 home runs last year.
Yeah, but you know what? I looked at his WAR, the wins above replacement, and most people are going to play corner outfield are going to hit 15 just by showing up.
Yep.
So, his WAR is like, .02 plus. Nothing big, nothing good. Certainly not $20 million good, but he's already being paid, right?
Right. And he's already being paid. To the extent that I understand terms like WAR and OPS, his OPS last year was 100, which was exactly average in the major leagues.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
well, he didn't leave Detroit on the greatest of circumstances when he started trashing the ballpark, right? If that memory serves me correct.
And
right?
I don't want to say he was Jim Northrup, but he was kind of a malingerer. I don't know. I don't think anyone ever stood up and said, God, it really kills me that we lose Nick Castellanos. And none of the teammates really fought for him.
I don't know, Jack. It kind of killed me when I saw him in Cincinnati. They're hitting 34 dingers in here. Detroit couldn't. That weighed on my mind a little bit. And I don't think knocking Comerica Park for its dimensions is a bad thing.
Yeah. What year was that in Cincinnati?
21.
Yeah. So that's 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And, a lot of times we think about what someone has done, not what they are prepared to do. And, I think if the Phillies thought that he was going to hit 37 home runs, they might have found a way to keep him.
They might have found a way to get him beer in the dugout.
That's right. Have someone, what would you like, Nick? Yeah, they would be running.
Yeah, there you have it. Yeah, there you have it. So.
Hey, I want to go back and talk a little bit of hockey with you. Because we have the Olympics here. And what do you make of this? How riveting is it going to be for the average fan? I know Boston Rob is going to be watching every moment of it. But,
well, sure.
Are you into Olympic hockey as much as you are this NHL season?
I will be once it gets started in some degree of earnestness. The tournament just began, I think, last night, the men's draw. Remember that Four Nations tournament about a year ago?
Yes.
It was just great, right?
Yep.
It was terrific hockey. We all think Larkin got hurt or overly fatigued in the course of that tournament and wasn't worth what he should have been worth the rest of the season after he came back. But that was great hockey, and what I expect out of the Olympics is that same level of great hockey with just a little extra because they're literally playing for their countries. It's going to be great.
So, Team USA, are they favorite, co-favorite? Rob, what do you think? Where are they?
I think they're a co-favorite. They're up 5-1 right now against Latvia.
Okay.
So well on their way there, but most certainly it's all about Canada and the United States, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, got to be.
Okay. So some people were saying that Patrick Kane, now with the most points of any American-born player, is the greatest American-born player. I would suggest they go back and watch a little Chris Chelios. But in terms of Kane, why is he not on the Olympic team? I know he was. That didn't end well. But
oh gosh, you got me. I just flat out don't know. I don't have an answer.
I mean, the leading goal scorer this country has produced, right? The leading point producer, and he's doing all right with the Red Wings.
Yeah, he is.
So why wouldn't he be on the Olympic team?
Well, now you're gonna have to fly me to Italy so I can ask the people.
A lot of good players at that position. I mean, there's a lot of good American players at that position, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's loaded in that at the forward position. Yes.
Okay. All right. You guys know more about that than I do in terms of who would rank ahead. I'm just thinking, if he is the all-time U.S. point producer. Plus, he has experience.
It would have been a great story if he got on the team. But it's.
I mean, look at everybody right now is so excited, geeked, erected the thought that Justin Verlander can come back to Comerica Park or whatever they're going to call it, Fifth Third. Then I think that there would be some people who would be equally excited about Patrick Kane, and I was just thinking, I'm not, I don't have any dog in this. I don't like or dislike Patrick Kane, and I don't really understand what happened in Nagano, but I would think that experience and that influence on some of these younger players might be valuable.
Might be valuable, but you dress 20 every night, Jack, and there's like we're saying, there's an awful lot of good hockey players out there. That's that's about all I could think of what might be going on in his case.
Okay. The Red Wings now.
Hey, what about Little Caesars ballpark? Think there's any chance we'll see that?
I guess they thought of that as a revenue stream with the 10-year sponsorship. And I think a lot of the revenue streams from the Illiches are going for bad contracts.
I can't wait to watch the Red Wings on Major League Baseball Network.
Yeah, well.
How about that, Ray?
The thing of it is I've subscribed to MLB TV for the past 25 years, and the only gripe I have about it is the blackouts.
Yeah.
So if they solve this problem, and it turns out with my phone carrier, I get it for free anyways. That's an unnecessary aside, but at least I don't have to pay for it. Well, you do pay for it, but nevertheless, I haven't had any issue with it at all. I expect it to go well, but I know it won't. Because there's always going to be a glitch. There's always going to be people that can't get the games or can't afford to pay for the games, et cetera. And so, it's not going to be as easy as it was in the old days when you just flip on Channel 4,
right.
And there's the game.
That doesn't mean there's going to be any change with Benetti and his sidekicks, right?
No, as far as I'm aware, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Jason. He was here for the game last week and had a chance to talk to him after the Illinois game, and I'm hoping
what a great game that was.
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich, I know you do a lot with the Wings, and you're very busy. That and your stand-up, your comedy act, but you don't do a lot with college hockey, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So
correct.
I want to get you up here. Maybe we can even let Boston Rob be your host, and bring you up to a Michigan State game now, because it is different from anything you would remember, and the crowds, they pack Munn.
Yeah.
The team is number one in the country, and I think if you got bit by the bug, we would see you up here a lot.
Well, you know what? Ever since they moved from Dem Hall, Jack, I went to hockey games at Demonstration Hall, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh my God! I saw a player for Laurentian one night. It was like freshman year. He got so upset about a penalty, he goes to the penalty box and there's a swinging door behind him, and he just shoves the door open and steps outside, and he stepped right outside onto campus. The door closed behind him. somebody had to go and open the door to let this guy back into the building. I mean, you just, you love stuff like that.
Yeah,
a lot of NHL draft picks on this over the last couple of years for the Michigan State Spartans.
Yes, absolutely. So the guys you're going to be watching are the guys
you
will see.
Scouting there, Rich.
That's right. Advanced scouting. Like going to watch Toledo.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. Absolutely.
All right, Rich. We will check with you again next week. And what's your Florida schedule? When are you going?
I'm going Saturday the 21st early. I'll be coming back the following Wednesday, so I should be able to report for you for a couple of days down there anyway.
Great. Well, we have 2 or 3 people I know are going to be down there. We'll be hearing from a variety of them, but don't get the idea that we're sending you to do the Cactus League, too.
Okay, that'll be fine. The expense reports will be carefully annotated.
Rich Kincaide, and if you want a good read, as the Red Wings are moving toward the playoffs, the gods of Olympia Stadium will take you back.
One of the first books I ever got here when I moved to
Is that right?
Lansing. Yeah. Rich was often subbed for Earl Robinson whenever Earl would take a day off, which is much like you, never, but he did occasionally. Rich would come in with his book, and he signed it for me. Great read, indeed.
Nice.
Yes.
Very nice. All right, we will be back, and we're going to talk with DeShaun Tate, our Lansing-bred, Atlanta-based basketball savant, up next on The Drive with Jack.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Some great product here in early 2026.
You got it, Jack. Here at Chevy, we have, backed by popular demand, the all-new Bolt. Redesigned and back in full force for us. People are really excited about that vehicle. It did great for us in the past.
Great.
And then next door, the Nissan Sentra, completely redesigned for that model. Great fuel economy. It's going to be a hot seller for us.
Stop and see Matt and the gang at Graph of Okemos. They're making friends.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Hey, Jack, you love a good gift card.
Yes, Jeremy, I do.
One North makes it even better. Reload your One North gift card now through January for 15% off and keep those good meals coming. Lunch, dinner, happy hour, covered. Reload it, use it, repeat. One North Kitchen and Bar.
Where gift cards keep giving.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Great time to get a great vehicle.
Fantastic time, Jack. 0% financing is back. Hard to believe this time right now we can get a vehicle with 0 interest.
Wow.
And if you're looking to pay cash, how about rebates up to $10,000? That's unheard of lately, right? $10,000 off on a vehicle. How about leasing? You want to lease? You can lease a vehicle right now in the low 3s. Come on out and take a look.
You're talking everyone's language. Stop and see Matt and the gang. They're making friends.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer, Boston Rob. Rob, I want to end the show with DeShaun Tate, pride of Lansing Waverly, now down in Atlanta, covering the Hawks, the NBA, college basketball, getting ever closer to March Madness, and that is a time that floats DeShaun's boat for the entire 12 months. You look at some of the games going on. Are you surprised by some of these big leads that are being overcome? Michigan last night down 16 in the second half, come back, win by double digits. We saw Purdue with a 22-point lead at Nebraska, and you blink, and that's gone. Is it just a three-point shot, DeShaun, or why are teams blowing leads and overcoming them so quickly?
I don't know, Jack. Is it happening in the NBA as well? I think we've seen the same thing last night with the Hawks against Charlotte. If you can't beat a team that got two of the starters out, I don't know what to tell you there in the Battle of the South. Different conversation, obviously, but I mean, I think sometimes some of the teams are, finding some a little bit of pride within themselves, a little bit, albeit probably last minute or whatever the case may be. But sometimes it's a combination of many things. Sometimes it is the three-point shot. Sometimes it's just a matter of, a guy who's typically hot and typically gets going early, doesn't get going as early, or various different things. We always talk about next man up. Some guys don't have the next man up, and so I think some of that has a lot to do with it. I'm sure it's so many other variables to it, but I think that those are just a few.
In college basketball, DeShaun, one thing we are hearing now, and there's some analytics that support this, is the game is getting older. For a period of time, the best players were leaving for the NBA after their freshman year, sophomore year certainly. If they were there 4 years, there was usually something wrong with them, or at least that was a perception. And now colleges are offering great compensation, in many cases more than players would make in the pros, so they are staying in school, and you're getting 24, 25, 26-year-old players. Michigan State has someone on his sixth program, and someone just got a ninth year of eligibility in the NCAA. So pretty soon we're going to see our first decade player. But how valuable do you think experience and age is when you get to tournament time?
I was going to say really quickly, to that last point. We'll just scratch that for now. I think it's very valuable. We go back and we look at the last X amount of national champions. It's been over 10 years now that we've seen a team that's been predicated so heavily on its freshmen, being Duke in 2015, that has walked away with a national championship. And so I think it's very valuable, but that also has to be the right piece. Obviously, NIL has a lot to do with that type of stuff. I think we saw it in 2022 with Remy Martin transferring from Arizona State to Kansas. How he didn't end up with a Remy alcoholic beverage deal, I don't know, but I think that it does play benefit. And again, it does just have to be the right piece. We do see some guys come back for another year or come back and they're returning all their guys from a year that went to the Final Four. I think we've seen it with UCLA the year that they beat Michigan State in the first four, and I think we've seen it with North Carolina the year that they won a national championship. Went to the championship game against Kansas, came back the next year, didn't even make the tournament. So it does have to be the right pieces. They do have to have the chemistry, and not just assuming you're going to be able to walk in anybody's gym and win. But I think that there is a lot to say about players, return, able to make a little bit of change for themselves, more than they'll make at the next level, and be able to will its team to a deep run in March, if not win the whole thing.
DeShaun, there was some research done, I sent it to you, from Jay Kuda, and he broke down the top 10 teams in college basketball. And going back 1 year, how many of the top 4 players in terms of minutes played were with that team 1 year ago? And of the top 10 teams, there's only one that all 4 of the top minute guys in terms of time on the floor this year were at the current school a year ago, and that's Michigan State. You think of Fears, Cooper, Kohler, Carr, They played the most minutes this year, and they are all holdovers. So Michigan State, the only one to have 4, and there's only one school that doesn't have any of last year's holdovers back. The top 4 guys in minutes played were all somewhere else. You remember what school that was? DeShaun?
Was it Michigan?
It was Michigan. It absolutely was Michigan.
And it has some of the best success in college basketball right now.
Yeah.
And that's interesting within itself, too, and sometimes those things can happen. Again, we don't know what the outcome will be in March.
Right.
Michigan has a team that most people would disagree. I would probably be one of those people that can lose in the first round, but we all know how March is. Everything's a clean slate.
Right.
You could be one of the teams that's wiping everybody off the map by 30 and 40 points if you let them tell it, spin that narrative.
If you can be trailing Northwestern by 16 points last night, you can lose in the NCAA tournament game.
And look very uncharacteristic once you get to that first game in March. And guess what? Sometimes they can beat that team by 1 point, who you would think they would blow them out by 50, and then turn around and beat everybody else and be on their way to the national. Some people get tested earlier than not. But it's interesting to see the way that is happening with the Michigan Wolverines, because they very much so have not only a national championship team, but amongst the 2 of my best teams in the country right now.
Well, if Michigan State has all 4 of their guys with experience from a year ago, and Michigan has 0, the schools that have just 1 player who was there a year ago are Arizona, number 1, Illinois, number 8, Kansas, number 9. The schools that have 2 players there a year ago were Houston, the national runner-up, and Nebraska, believe it or not. And the schools that have 3 players back, not quite to Michigan State's level, but very close, Duke, Iowa State, and UConn. So if you took the schools that have 0 or 1 player, and then the schools that have 3 or 4 players back, I think you'd have a heck of an all-star game.
Oh, would you? One that I assume is going to be a lot more interesting and entertaining than the one we're about to find out that what it looks like this weekend out in L.A. But, all very good teams, all teams that are, for the most part, very capable, I think, of winning a national championship. And a lot of, stories, tradition, and guys that are doing it, doing it multiple ways. And for the most part, I think all of these teams have at least maybe 1 international player that's probably playing their first year in college basketball. Illinois probably a whole starting 5 just about pretty much within their own rights. But, and again, just because Michigan State does have all those guys returning, so on and so forth, we also know, just to be fair, same way we spoke on Michigan, that it doesn't guarantee a dominance for Michigan State either.
No.
So I think that right there, to me, is actually the beauty of March, because it can happen in so many different ways, forms, and fashions. I can't wait for March to get started so we can twist the narrative in the directions that we want to.
Well, I love March. It's an exciting time, especially for basketball junkies like us. But the thing I don't like about March, DeShaun, is that for many people, and some of them are casual fans who don't have the patience to follow the entire sport through the season, it invalidates or makes irrelevant November, December, January, and February. And to me, winning a conference regular season championship, not the tournament, even though the ACC is built on the tournament, but if you do it over 20 games, that is a significant achievement, whether it's Michigan State, Michigan, or whoever. And you can go out then in a tournament setting, and it's a crapshoot. I mean, it's a roll the dice every game. You can get an official's call that can put someone on the bench for 12 minutes of the first half. You can have a block charge call. You can have a sprained ankle. You can have anything, and it's the randomness that makes the NCAA tournament so appealing, where you can have upsets. But I think we need to acknowledge what has happened before that point. It's like people who, you get into Major League Baseball, right? And you can have a team that is 500, and they catch fire at the end of the year. Doesn't mean they're the best team. Yeah. It would mean they were the hottest team or the luckiest team when they had to be. And speaking of hot, How about the Detroit Pistons right now? You know what their record is at the break?
I don't, but I know it's very good and good enough to be considered not only number one in the East and amongst the top probably 2 or 3 in the NBA.
It's 40-13, tied with the Thunder for the fewest losses. 40-13. You know what their record was at the All-Star break 2 years ago?
I got a feeling it's completely opposite from what you just said.
Yeah, it's worse than flipped. It was 8-46. They'd played 54 games and they'd only won 8. 8-46. Now they're 40-13 in a 2-year span. So, yes, it's the health and maturity of Cade Cunningham. Yes, it's some of the other players around him. Certainly Jalen Duren is a different player than he was. Some of it has to do with J.B. Bickerstaff. Some of it has to do with the way these guys are bought in and play hard every night. Whether they make it through the game without a fight is a different question. But the fact that this team, if I had told you 2 years ago that the Pistons were going to have the fewest losses in the NBA at the All-Star break, you would have demanded I get a sobriety test.
Yeah, I was going to say I would have asked you first before I take you to go get the sobriety test. How come you didn't invite me to the bar with you? I think that, Jack, the interesting thing about that is, like you said, it comes in so many different ways and different forms as to why we're seeing Detroit do what it's doing. And it's not just because of the hot shooting, because of Malik Beasley from, obviously a year ago, who played a big part in, trying to get the Pistons back to being what they're being, but they're keeping the same culture within that they're used to. Detroit is just a city with that predicates itself based on its culture anyway, and just the old school way of playing basketball games. And I think that it's something, the way that they play and the way that they win, it's something that people should embrace. And they're doing it in a time where everything is about offense. Everything is about, let's just make sure we have more points than the other team at the end of the game to win our games, and not as much about getting stops on the other side. And, I that is what I love and I embrace more than anything. If you love basketball, all forms and fashions of it, and just the old school mentality and way that this game was played before, and some people don't love it, I get it, millennials or whatever you want to call it. But I think that there's always a place of interest for teams that can bring something different and show that they can win in different styles and not just the same old way. I think that's why. Granted, the Pistons aren't getting them the credit that I think that they would have got. That someone like Boston or the Lakers or someone else, New York or whatever, what have you. But again, nothing is guaranteed for them. They could be the number one team. I mean, hell, the Tigers were the number one team for such a decent amount of time during the season last season.
How'd that work out?
Didn't end up getting there either. So there's still a lot of work left to be done. But this also, the beautiful thing about this, Jack, about the Pistons are doing is this doesn't feel like this is the best version of the Pistons that we're going to see over the. It's like they're just getting started. Right. I think that is another beauty within what
they're still on the ascent. No
it's like Indiana football over the last 2 years.
Thank you. I was just going to say that. DeShaun, Rob loves Indiana football.
Oh, my God.
He loves it. He thinks that they're a little undercovered. Yeah. They need to have a little more publicity. Yeah. But he likes the idea that, Indiana has had this dramatic turnaround.
I love talking about it for 3 months straight on this show. Yeah.
So that's why we're going to do it for 4. But when you think about Indiana,
after March.
It's not that different from what we're seeing with the Pistons to go from 8-46 to 40-13 in such a short span. There's some similarities there, but I have to ask you about the Pistons going to make the NBA Finals.
I think they have just as good of a chance at winning, at making the NBA Finals. It's just going to be between them and the Knicks. I think ultimately that's what it's coming down to. No shade at Boston Rob and anybody else, but I think that's what it's coming down to. I still believe that the Knicks have what it takes. They got some things to figure out and turn around and everything, and there's time for that. Yeah. But I think that we're at a dead even 50-50, in my opinion. if not nothing else, I would probably give the edge to the New York Knicks at about a 55-45.
Okay, if that's the series, DeShaun, you and I can have a little wager on that.
50-50.
A little olive burger wager on that because, no mention of that other team in New England, right? So that's okay.
Sure.
But in terms of the series last year, I think if Isaiah Stewart had been in the lineup, the Pistons would have advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I give the huge advantage to the Pistons over the Knicks.
Yeah, I do too. They just played. The Pistons won by 30. And, what is it, 5.5 games? 6 games? Separating them in the loss column. So I think the Pistons would be more than happy to play the Knicks as long as they are healthy. But I have to ask you about another team in the East. And you know Trae Young as well as anyone. You followed him, watched his game, got to know him. And the pluses and minuses with his game. But if he is healthy and Anthony Davis is healthy, and we know they have young players in Sarr and Trey Johnson, and with all the injuries this year, they're going to be in position for a high lottery pick. Are the Washington Wizards a candidate in 2 years to have the kind of complete about-face that the Pistons have done?
The last thing I was going to say about that other conversation real quick, Jack, was that San Antonio has done a good job at turning things around there, too, as well, in a very short span.
Yeah, well, Victor Wembanyama will do that for you.
Yeah, definitely will. That's one of those things that I've really got to be able to see. We're talking about Anthony Davis. I mean, that's a big portion of their success being predicated on a guy who just doesn't play, just the reality being what it is. And so, can it happen? I don't love the likelihood of it because of the other guys on that team, the youth, the lack of experience. That Bob Carrington and Alexander Sarr and some of the other guys have on the Johnson and some of the guys that they rely upon to win basketball games. But over time, maybe the issue with that is over time, Anthony Davis is going to be another year older every year. And I like the direction that they're going. Sure, they got a lot of guys that play hard amongst other things, but we'll find out real fast if that narrative is true about Trae Young, having a winning style of basketball. But the Anthony Davis thing, I think, is the biggest caveat of them all.
People forget, DeShaun, that he played 1 year of college basketball. He was very young when he came into the league in 12-13. So, it's not like he's 38. If he's 32 or 33, and now you're talking about guys, and we've seen that. He doesn't have to be LeBron James to be a major player with the experience and the shot blocking ability. And he's not getting many miles on the tires these days because he's not playing much. He's hurt all the time.
He's hurt all the damn time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, his body is 68, so I think that's the biggest difference for me.
All right, last question for you. I am getting on the road tomorrow with Doc Sterner and his buddy Ryan, and we are driving to Madison for the game tomorrow night. Am I going to see a Michigan State win or a loss against the Badgers?
I've actually been thinking about that one myself quite a bit, too. I think you'll see a win against the Badgers. I really do. Cole's not an easy place to play at all. I'm sure Tom Izzo and the guys can tell you that. But the reason I feel that way is because the bounce back that I saw after, is it 2 consecutive losses? Was it Michigan and Minnesota? The bounce back, they have to have that same exact mentality, and they know what Wisconsin is capable of because that being the only loss that Michigan has suffered all season. I think that you will see a win, but I don't think that you will see it in dominating fashion or anything remotely close. Even if it's by a point, a half a point, I think that would still be an impressive win at the end of the day for Michigan State, one of the best on its resume, even against some of the teams that have more storied, historic programs like Kentucky's and UCLA's and things like that.
All right,
the environment within itself is tough.
Real quick. The NBA All-Star Game. Who wins the three-point shooting contest?
It's way too difficult to go against Con Knippel right now. How is Damian Lillard in this, Jack? And is he going to play after the three-point contest?
I don't think so.
It's too hard to go against Con Knippel.
Who wins the dunk contest?
That's a good one.
Cohen Carr should win it.
Cohen Carr, bring him in, let him do it on Sunday.
Exactly.
They got the weekend off.
He should win it.
He will win it someday.
NBA guys, they get to leave the NBA and go play in college, so why not take the college guy and give him one night in the NBA for crying out loud? I think he'd win it. Give me real quick, Jack, outside of Jace, who the other participants are?
I can't even tell you that. I thought you would know. I don't know.
There's a reason for that, by the way, Jack. I think the NBA has to do a little bit better job.
Yeah. All right. And how many three-pointers will be shot in this game? In the All-Star game?
Well, Steph Curry's not playing, so that X's out about 100.
Somebody else will fill in the void, and they'll be shooting them from midcourt.
That's a good point. Not as many, I think, as we would suspect, because there's a lot of lobs being thrown and crazy plays. And crazy plays.
All right. Over or under 120?
This is like a Michigan goodbye.
Under 120.
One last question. It ends up being 8.
One last question.
I feel like the over-under has to be over 120 for some reason.
Rob is a very busy man. He has three things he has to do.
One more question ends up being a Michigan goodbye with Jack.
Yeah.
DeShaun, you know that.
Yeah. All right. Opposed to a Boston goodbye, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Much more respectful, by the way, for you, DeShaun, on that. The Boston goodbye.
All right. Thanks so much, DeShaun. Appreciate it. Hey, want to thank all of our guests today. Yeah. I want to thank Stephen Brooks, 24/7 Sports Spartan Tailgate Premium site. The great job covering Michigan State football and basketball, and he will be in Madison. I will see him there. Dr. Albert Cohen from the MSU Analytics team. He directs that program, and they have a lot of people now who will be working for pro teams, but I found his analysis of when to pull the goaltender absolutely fascinating, breaking it down by 10-second increments. That's pretty special. Rich Kincaide, a Detroit correspondent. Nobody in the media loves hockey more than Rich Kincaide. Maybe tied Rob. Also going to be a baseball correspondent from Florida. And DeShaun Tate, our Lansing-bred, Atlanta-based basketball savant. Have a great night, everyone. Talk to you from Madison.